Hello everyone, me Vaani and Nida Hasan. We are presenting this paper today on spontaneous commercial spaces in urban villages of Greater Noida. And we have taken Tugalpur Village as a case study. So to give you a brief background of the study, the National Capital Region was conceived in 1985, and that led to the urbanization of Noida and Greater Noida. And in 1991, GNIDA was constituted, the Greater Noida Industrial Development Authority, and it notified 124 villages, which were covering 38,000 hectares of land for urbanization. When the Yamuna Expressway was constructed, the Noida, Greater Noida Aqua Line Metro came in, the access became easier and there was an explosion in population. This rapid urbanization of Greater Noida resulted in major spatial, social, political, and economic changes, which we will be focusing today. The villages of this region, especially, were massively affected. The map here very clearly shows the even distribution of these villages all over. When the urban planning started here, when this planned sector started coming up, the rural cohesion that was existing earlier was disrupted, but a new urban informality started showing up. The rural people which were now being called the urban villagers, they started accommodating and adapting to the needs of the urban population that was coming in. And their own aspirations of the villagers, it started changing completely. And since these villages were not governed by the planning laws and regulations of the urban authorities, as they were intentionally left out of these laws so that they can retain their rural identity, it led to a lot of informal spatial development, diversity in multiple land use, socio-cultural morphology, and many spontaneous commercial activities. So let us understand the relationship between the urban villages and the planned sectors, which is not very different from what exists in Delhi, but we will like to see just in the case of Greater Noida how it shaped out. The urban villages of Greater Noida were once primarily agricultural economies, just like urban villages of Delhi NCR. The urbanization shifted their traditional income source from agriculture to the rental income. With more and more agricultural land acquired for development of urban areas, the villagers in urban villages began to rent out their spare rooms to the migrant tenants to increase their income, and gradually the small shops cropped up to meet the needs of the daily residents of the villages. In the last decade, the villagers have rented out the shops also, and the rental income is now their primary source of income. The interdependence of these urban villages and planned sectors is increasing, with the urban villages becoming more and more adaptable and flexible. So we can see that what are urban villages giving to the planned sectors? They are giving them affordable rented accommodation and a sense of belongingness, a sense of cultural and traditional heritage and a memory of belonging to their rural roots. And what are planned sectors giving to urban villages? Opportunities, employments, technology, access to a lot of urban infrastructure that came along with the planned sectors, and a lot of information flow. Earlier, they were in silos, and then this exchange of information started happening very dramatically. So gradually, a lot of commercial spaces, they developed in these villages, and the planned sectors have become increasingly dependent on these commercial areas of urban villages for their daily needs and requirements at affordable prices. And the research on these commercial areas of urban villages of Greater Noida is very scarce. So the commercial area activities here work very differently than it works in the planned sectors. So our aim is to study the characteristics of these spontaneous commercial spaces in urban villages of Tugalpur in Greater Noida and also to understand the economy of these commercial spaces. Therefore, this paper is going to focus on two aspects majorly. One is the types of spontaneous commercial spaces that came up in urban villages of Greater Noida. And secondly, to study the economic flow that was generated between the urban villages and planned sector due to these commercial spaces in the urban villages. And we have taken this, taken the example of the Tugalpur village. So the location of this village makes this a very, very interesting case study. It has a proximity to, we can see here on the map, this is Noida here. So this is Noida, this is Greater Noida, and this is the Greater Noida expressway when we are coming from Delhi. So all the Delhi traffic is also coming through this expressway. And when it comes from here, and as soon as it turns, Pari Chowk is one of the major gateways to enter into the Greater Noida, and Tugalpur village lies just next to it. In fact, Pari Chowk had, gone through Tugalpur. So a part of Tugalpur has gone to the right side of the expressway. So the main mandir is across the road. So there is a Ansal Plaza, there is a mall here. This is the Pari Chowk. There is an eastern peripheral road also coming along here. So the traffic from people from Ghaziabad also can access it very easily. And there is Yamuna Expressway leading to Agra and Mathura. So Tugalpur village has residential and supporting commercial areas, and it is entirely surrounded by the institutional areas. See this here. So this is the Tugalpur village, another kind of map. And all the blue areas that you see are the institutional areas. This is the urban village of our study. This is Ansal Plaza here, and this is the metro line. This is the metro line. The expressway, just over the expressway, the metro line is running parallel to it. So it also has this rivulet. So this is the Hindon River, and this is going through the Tugalpur village. This rivulet called Lohiya is also flowing through. It drains into the Surajpur wetland. So this location of Tugalpur village is very interesting. So what methodology that we followed for this, our study, is that the locals were surveyed using a questionnaire. And a part of this research qualitative methodology is that we did a lot of field work to present the spatial and economic situation of the study area. The photographs were taken in real time. The mapping of commercial areas were sketched. And a lot of interviews were conducted with the villagers, because the way the economy works here in the villages is very different from what happens in planned sectors. So no, you cannot see these villages through the lens of what we have learned in the urbanization, in the urban design or urban planning, because it is a multi-layered complex system. The way these systems work in urban villages, how flexible they are, how accommodating they are, how they, it actually breathes like a living organism, and they are continuously changing, adapting, and it is working very beautifully. So to understand it, we have to interview the major stakeholders. So we have done that through interviews. We went with the questionnaire to mostly the shop owners. Some people owned the shops, some people were tenants. So there were 3 sections in the questionnaire. The first section compiled the data on the commercial sectors, including revenue, cost, business, income, profit. The second section discusses how the local use the area and what are the problems that they encountered, the spatial problems they had using that area. And the final section is focused on the needs of the neighborhood. And in regard to this research, the survey questionnaires approach placed a very strong emphasis on looking at people's everyday lives and their social economic activities, their attachment, their perceptions about the commercial areas of the study. And then a tabular analysis was done. So I would now invite my co-author, Nida Hasan, to take this study forward and tell us in detail about the types of commercial spaces in Tugalpur.
Thank you, Architect Vaani. Let's see the commercial spaces in Tugalpur. The commercial shops in Tugalpur have become an important economic resource for the village economy. The nature of these commercial spaces can be termed as spontaneous. The commercial spaces in Tugalpur are constantly changing due to the dual influence of spontaneous local developments and the perpetual influence of the neighboring plant sectors. Three different types of commercial spaces are identified by studying the commercial areas of Tugalpur. So first is along the peripheral road. The village fringe has originally developed commercial spaces along the road. The areas in front of these businesses are spacious due to the 5-meter green belt and building setbacks. There are shops on the ground and the first floor, and the few complexes even have 3 to 4 floors. The businesses located along the peripheral road are strongly connected with the surrounding areas of the city. They serve the urban villages and the residents of institutional and residential areas. The vegetable and fruit mandi keeps this market overcrowded around the year. Then second is the main street. The main street is linear in Tugalpur. This road serves as the village entrance and stems out of the peripheral market road. The residents of this village take this road to go to the city and back, since this is the widest road in the Tugalpur. The major mixed-use development is along this road. So shops are constructed at the bottom of both sides of this main street to maximize the limited space available. Almost all the commercial space spill over to the road. The shop fronts are overcrowded with customers, vehicles, and street hawkers. These commercial areas are frequently used by urban residents as well as the village residents for daily use. Needs like footwear, saloon, stationery, general stores, furniture stores, mobile repair shops, etc. Then third is along the inner streets. So the inner streets of Tugalpur are narrow and have poor accessibility despite the fact that it has wholesale grocery stores. There are retail shops on the ground floor, and the upper floors either have shops for providing services like ticket booking, printing, etc., or the floors are rented as PG hostels. There are narrow stair entrances between the shops for accessing upper floors and the ground floor residential spaces behind the shop front. These inner streets do not have drains connected to the main street road. The wholesale grocery stores serve many local stores of neighboring urban areas. Then now let's see the locations of commercial setups. Tugalpur's business infrastructure is dynamically modified to meet the needs of the nearby community and the villagers. In Tugalpur, the proportion of commercial space to the built-up area ranges from 35% to 45%. The commercial establishments in Tugalpur are split into 4 categories based on the type of businesses. First is retail shops, personal service shop, including tailoring, hairdresser, etc. Informal shops, street vendors, and vegetable mandi. Second is service and repair, which contains maintenance, motor garage, and workshop, housing agents, hotels, ATMs, telecommunications, etc. Then third is catering, which includes restaurants, sweet shops, and beverage stores. Fourth is coaching centers, training institute, etc. So this is termed as others. So here, as shown in this figure, Tugalpur has the largest proportion of retail, consisting 67%. The physical locations of various commercial setups in Tugalpur are also analyzed. Vegetable mandi is situated along the peripheral road in the northeast, and it's pitched in the southwest. It intersects with inner streets of the village. The main street is lined with various retail establishments. Few retail establishments are dispersed across Tugalpur. The locals are the primary customers of retail establishments in Tugalpur. Whereas service and repair only constitutes 18%. The majority of services and repairs are located along the peripheral road in the west. Catering constitutes only 6%. Also, most catering businesses are located along the main street in Tugalpur. Catering and other services are available to both the inhabitants of the urban communities and those living nearby. And others constitute 9% out of all commercial activities. Commercial areas have unique traits based on the consumer demand and the local environment. Commercial setups in Tugalpur provide services to the nearby areas. The percentage of Tugalpur commercial area is also governed by the demands of nearby institutional and residential sectors. Then we have analyzed the commercial areas of Tugalpur on the basis of economy. Interviews of business owners have generated these calculations and are conservative projections and business averages. The business income and profit margins are the best way to calculate this. So as to reflect if the business is doing well or not, one example from each commercial setup group is showcased for the analysis of economics. Most of the properties are rented by the people from neighboring villages or migrant workers owing to the commercial location of Tugalpur. The shops that are run by residents are generally divided between the different heirs of the same family, and hence most of the property sizes are smaller. After interviewing the business owners, we found out that in almost every business, amount of revenue is greater than expenses incurred. That means the business operation is doing well because there is enough amount of money to pay all the business expenses, and that is a sign of effective business management. Now let's discuss about the key findings of urban village economics in the commercial areas of Tugalpur. Although the residents of village had concerns about living environments, they all agreed that the commercial spaces are essential for the convenience and the economy. This is evident by the constant growth of the commercial areas despite all the challenges, improved quality of life of villagers in terms of access to educational, recreational and socio-cultural infrastructure, as well as increased spending capacity are clear evidences of economic security of village residents. The study has revealed the following factors. Commercial space spillovers are seen all over the market because residents try to maximize the utilization of the limited space. Due to numerous storefronts, both the main market street and the periphery market are bustling areas. Narrow roadways have allowed for the circulation of vehicles, cyclists, trucks, etc. The market streets exhibit a distinct feeling of urban village aesthetics and a cautious pedestrian activity. The main parking area is located across the road leading to the market's periphery, although there are also other spots set up along the sides of the road for patron convenience. Some find it annoying as there are several layers of activities meeting various demands, but the inhabitants value their residents' flexibility and adaptability. A fruit and vegetable mandi is located on the village's peripheral road. The street vendors and temporary stores have encroached upon the 5-meter wide green belt that once surrounded this settlement. The government have made many attempts to eradicate these informal marketplaces, but they always return because they are so essential to the urban economic structure of these settlements. It is necessary to comprehend their necessity and take action to provide accommodations for them. In the commercial areas that are on periphery, there are temporary stores with accompanying shelters, creating slum-like circumstances. Many migrant workers live in the temporary shops, and there they make all the mattresses, furniture. So these kinds of businesses they are doing there, and they sell these items. The commercial activity in the shops of Tugalpur that are on periphery road and the main street changes every 5 to 10 years, which demonstrate how well these locations can adapt to the needs of the plant sectors. Residents from nearby plant sectors frequently shop from these commercial areas because of the reasonable costs. Then about the conclusion, we found out that planning of urban villages cannot be bound into macro context due to ever changing multifunctional and multi-layered nature of their spaces and requirements. The limited knowledge of multifunctionality, mixed land use, and multiple layers of commercial activities hamper the formulation of effective spatial policies for land use and village redevelopment. To improve the quality of living environments in the urban villages, locally relevant solutions need to be identified, keeping in mind the community-specific needs. With the aid of village design charts, a thorough examination of land use diversity and an awareness of the needs and concerns of the local community at the grassroots level can pave the way for the establishment of appropriate policies to aid in rebuilding of urban villages. From Greater Noida's urban villages to receive the much needed assistance and development, collaborative and community-led planning initiatives are necessary. Immediate action is required to protect the special qualities of the Tugalpur's commercial spaces and their self-control system so that they can continue to provide residents of Tugalpur and the surrounding areas with improved services. Despite being built in conformity with pertinent residential standards, commercial facilities in planned sectors typically fall short of residents' needs. In contrast, Tugalpur's self-regulation systems can recognize market demands for businesses quite quickly. The establishment of realistic development plans for Greater Noida's urban villages is of utmost importance from a social and economic standpoint. It is obvious that more experts are required to conduct academic research and create realistic strategic plans for the renewal of urban villages, particularly commercial areas given the state of development. Urban villages and even the metropolis may benefit from these initiatives as they grow in an orderly and healthy manner. So here I would like to thank to the shopkeepers and Pradhanji's family for their contributions for the data collection, and we are thankful to Professor Anand Khatri for his invaluable guidance. Thank you for being a wonderful audience. Thank you.